Welcome to the Highcrest Audible. Each week you'll hear something new. It might be a short story, a non-fiction text, the next chapter of a novella, a narrative poem, a scene from a play, or even a legend from an ancient civilization. This half-term, we're exploring the world of non-fiction. Real-life ponderings, wonderings, and conversations throughout history. As always, at the end of every reading, you'll be asked one question. Get it right, and your form group earns house points. All it takes is for one member of your form to find Mr. Howes, state the accompanying word of the week, and provide him with the answer. Now, on to this week's reading. Enjoy. Today's reading takes us back to ancient Greece, nearly 2,500 years ago. It was written by the philosopher Plato, who recorded the conversations of his teacher Socrates. What you're about to hear is one of those conversations, a story known as the Allegory of the Cave. It appears in Plato's most famous work, The Republic, a book that asks what it means to live wisely, to learn deeply, and to build a just society. In this passage, Socrates doesn't give a lecture or a list of facts. Instead, he tells a story, one that uses image and imagination to explore how people come to know the truth. The scene is simple. A dark cave, a fire burning behind a group of chained prisoners, and the flickering shadows they believe to be the whole of reality. From that small and haunting picture, Plato asks a question that still matters today. What if everything we thought was true turned out to be only a shadow of the truth? Imagine, for a moment, a group of people who have lived their entire lives chained inside a dark cave. Their legs and necks are fixed so that they cannot move or turn their heads. All they can see is the wall in front of them. Behind them, far away, a fire burns. Between the fire and the prisoners is a raised path, and along it, other people walk, carrying statues, tools, and shapes of animals made of wood and stone. The firelight throws shadows of these things on the wall before the prisoners. So all they ever see are shadows. Exactly. And because they have never seen anything else, they believe these shadows to be the only reality. They name the shapes they see, they give meaning to them, and they build their whole understanding of life around what those shadows appear to do. If they could talk to one another, they would discuss what passes before them. They might even compete to guess which shadow will appear next or which one will move fastest. The most skillful of them might be praised for knowing the shadows best, and so they would think themselves wise. But they would be mistaken, wouldn't they? Entirely. They would be like people who mistake stories for truth, who take appearance for understanding. And imagine now that the cave has an echo. When one of the people walking behind them speaks, the sound bounces off the wall. The prisoners would believe the voices belonged to the shadows themselves. To them, the shadows and the sounds are all that exist. Then their whole lives would be built on illusion. Yes, but suppose one prisoner is freed. Imagine the moment his chains are loosed. At first, he would be confused. If he turned his head, the firelight would sting his eyes. The sudden brightness would hurt him. He would want to turn back to the comfort of the wall, to the familiar shapes and patterns that he thinks he understands. If someone told him that what he used to see was false, and that what he now sees is closer to truth, he would not believe it. He would think the light was blinding him, and that the shadows he once knew were clearer and safer. It's hard to blame him. Change can be painful. Indeed, the first steps towards truth often are. Now, imagine that this prisoner is dragged upward out of the cave, up a steep and rocky path, until he reaches the mouth of the cave and emerges into the sunlight. At first, the brightness would be unbearable. He would see nothing. Slowly, painfully, his eyes would begin to adjust. He would first make out shadows again, this time cast by real things. Then reflections in water of trees and clouds and mountains. And finally, he would see the objects themselves, living, moving, and solid. Eventually, he would look up and see the sun, not just its reflection, but the sun itself, its light, its warmth, its brilliance. He would realize that the sun is the source of all he sees. It gives life, it gives growth, and it makes sight itself possible. That would be a moment of awakening. Yes, and he would understand that what he once thought was real, the shadows on the wall, were nothing compared to this world of light. He would pity those still chained in the cave, living in darkness, believing the shadows were truth. He might even remember how proud they were when they guessed which shadow would come next, or who could name them fastest. He would smile sadly, knowing those honours meant nothing now that he had seen the real world. He would never wish to go back, surely. No, he would rather live in the light, even if life were harder. But imagine that he does return to the cave to share what he has learned. When he goes back down, his eyes, now used to daylight, will be filled with darkness again. He will stumble, unable to see clearly. The others will laugh at him. They will say his journey ruined his sight. They will say the climb was dangerous and foolish. If he tries to free them, to lead them to the surface, they might resist, even attack him, for fear of losing the world they know. So they would rather stay in the comfort of illusion than face the pain of truth. Exactly so. This story, dear Glaucon, is an allegory, a way of explaining something deeper. The cave is the world of appearances, the world of things we think we know. The journey upward is the path of learning, the ascent of the soul from ignorance to understanding. The fire is the light of belief, and the sun is the light of truth, the source of all wisdom and reason. And those who reach this understanding find it hard to return to the world below. Yes, but those who truly understand must not stay apart. They must return to help others. The goal of learning is not to escape the world, but to transform it, to help others see what they could not see before. Those who have walked into the light have a duty to go back and guide others, not with arrogance, but with compassion. For once, they too were prisoners. That's a powerful thought, but how can one person change the minds of many who do not want to see? Slowly, patiently, and with understanding. You see, true education is not a matter of filling an empty mind with facts. It is a matter of turning the whole soul toward the light. The power to learn is already within every person. It simply needs to be directed toward what is true and good. Some people have sharp minds, but look the wrong way, using intelligence to deceive or to gain power over others. Their sight is not blind, but it is misdirected. They see clearly, but they look downward, not upward. Others seem slow to learn, only because no one has shown them where to look. Their eyes are capable of light, but they have grown used to the dark. So the teacher's role is to turn the soul gently toward what is real. Precisely. We cannot give sight to the blind, but we can help those who see wrongly to turn their vision in the right direction. Wisdom is not something given. It is something uncovered, revealed, drawn out. And once a person has seen the light, they must not use their knowledge for selfish ends. They must use it to guide, to teach, and to serve others. The happiness of one individual is not the goal. It is the shared enlightenment of the whole community that matters most. That's a just idea. Remember, then, that those who rise to understanding should not think themselves above others. They must descend again among those who still live in the cave, not as rulers or judges, but as helpers, joining in their labours, lifting them from illusion to truth. And perhaps that is what a good society is. Not one where a few live in brightness while others remain in darkness, but one where all are invited to see the light together. We've just heard Plato's Allegory of the Cave, one of the most famous stories in philosophy. In it, the prisoners live their whole lives chained in darkness. Plato uses this image to ask what it really means to learn and to see clearly. So, here's your question. What do the prisoners inside the cave mistake for reality? When you've got your answer, find Mr. Howes, tell him this week's word of the week and your answer to that question. Have a great week.